Chapter 326. Chu Xiao frowned. Chu Ning, do you know what you're saying? Chu Ning leaned back in his chair with a relaxed expression and a cold gaze. Of course, if you don't accept, then let's end the discussion here. As he spoke, he was about to stand up. Chu Xiao was about to shout angrily, but the person beside him spoke first. Chu Ning, we know that the Chu family wronged you and your daughter first. It's understandable for you to make this request. However, so much time has passed. Are you going to investigate everything one by one? I remember each and every one of them clearly. I won't malign anyone. Chu Ning glanced at the person who spoke. Why don't we start with you? That person was speechless. The entire hall fell into dead silence again. Who knew what Chu Ning would think of to punish and take revenge on them? Only a fool would stand out at this time. However, it was difficult for them to give up just like that. Chu Ning had been promoted to the commander of the Imperial Guards and held great power in his hands. However, this was not the most important thing. The key to the problem was still Chu Luiyue. It would be fine if she was just an ordinary cultivation genius, but she was clearly more outstanding than most people. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to take first place twice in the Qin Jiao competition. Moreover, she was extremely talented as a celestial physician. From the moment she could refine pills, she was already considered a true celestial physician. One had to know that no one in the Chu family had achieved this in so many years. What made them even more tempted was that Chu Luiyue had a Daijinjiwen meridian and was chosen by Mu Qinghe to cultivate in the Tianling dynasty in the future. What an honor this was! If Chu Luiyue was still a member of the Chu family, then the entire Chu family's status would instantly rise. By then, not only would they be able to maintain their position as one of the four major families, they might even be able to replace the C family as the number one family. How could they give up such a huge temptation in front of them? Big brother, for the sake of the master, why don't we compromise? Chu Ji cautiously said. Chu Ning asked. What do you mean? Chu Ji glanced at Chu Xiao and smiled awkwardly. About that? If we were to count the things that happened in the past one by one, it would be quite troublesome. Why don't we formally apologize to you and Lu Yu and compensate you according to your suggestions? In order to show our sincerity, this matter should start with the great elder. How about it? Chu Xiao raised his eyebrows. Chu Ji, do you want this old man to lower his head and apologize first? Cough cough, Grand Elder, you don't have to be so blunt, except for the patriarch. Right now, you are the most respected person in the Chu clan. Isn't it the most convincing to start with you? Even if it's for the Chu family. Chu Ji lowered his voice when he said the last sentence, but everyone in the hall heard it clearly. Everyone's hesitant and worried expressions quickly dissipated. First Elder, what Chu Ji said makes sense. You have indeed given Chu Ning and his daughter a lot of grievances in the past. It is only right for you to apologize. Yes. You've already written the invitation. Didn't you ask Chu Ning to come back today to discuss a solution? It's best to turn big problems into small ones and small ones into nothing. First Elder, didn't you say that we are all family? Since we are family, it's fine to lower our heads. Chu Xiao was so angry that his face turned green. These people who were usually respectful to him actually sold him out in the blink of an eye in order to establish a relationship with Chu Luiyue. After a long stalemate, Chu Xiao finally said coldly. All right. In that case, this old man will apologize to you. Chu Ning smiled faintly. First Elder, are you apologizing or lecturing people? Chu Xiao choked. The people beside him hurriedly approached and said, First Elder, think about Vice Admiral Mu. The other families didn't have the chance to establish a relationship with him. And the fact that the blood of the Chu family flowed in Chu Luiyue's body was indisputable. As long as they were willing to agree to come back, these small matters wouldn't be a problem at all. Chu Xiao took a deep breath. In the past, this old man did some terrible things and hurt you and your father. Now, I apologize to you. I'm sorry. Chu Xiao's body trembled as he gritted his teeth. It took him a lot of effort to say these words. He was used to being high and mighty in the Chu family. Now that he had to lower his head and apologize to Chu Ning, who he had always disliked, He felt extremely disgusted and broke down in his heart. He would settle this score in the future. The others didn't care about Chu Zhao's emotions at all. They all looked at Chu Ning expectantly. He had apologized and admitted his mistake. Now, Chu Ning should agree to return to the Chu family, right? But under their fervent gazes, Chu Ning didn't move. He just looked at Chu Xiao quietly as if he was still waiting for something. "There's still you." His voice was cold as he said word by word. Everyone looked at each other. Chu Xiao suddenly came back to his senses. "You want this old man to apologize to Chu Luiwei again?" Chu Ning nodded as if it was a matter of course. "Of course. I am me, and you are as you. Besides, she seems to have suffered more grievances than me all these years. Is it so difficult for you to apologize?" Chu Xiao was about to go crazy. When did Chu Ning become so difficult to deal with? Then why didn't you say so just now? Chu Ning snorted. His gaze was mocking, but he suddenly stood up. "It's so difficult for you to even apologize. I think the so-called compensation is even more illusory. Since you don't have any sincerity, I think there's no need to continue this conversation." He walked out of the hall. "When the patriarch comes out of seclusion, I will naturally explain everything that you, and I did. I believe he will understand. As for you, good luck." Wait. Seeing that Chu Ning was really about to leave, Chu Xiao finally threw caution to the wind. As long as Chu Luiwei agrees to return to the Chu family, then this old man will personally apologize to her until she is satisfied. How about it? Chu Ning stood still, and a mocking smile appeared on his face. He turned around and looked at Chu Xiao. "There's no need." Chu Xiao was stunned. "What?" Chu Ning laughed softly, but his voice was as cold as ice, chilling to the bottom of one's heart. "The Chu family gave birth to me and raised me. If I say that I don't have the slightest bit of nostalgia for the Chu family, it would definitely be a lie. So, whether it's for the sake of the Chu family's nurturing of me in the past, or for the sake of the patriarch who is about to come out of seclusion, I can let bygones be bygones and let bygones be bygones." "You can't. I remember clearly what you did to you, and I will never forget it in this lifetime. Even if all of you kneel on the ground and kowtow to apologize, even if you is really willing to forgive you, I can't do it." Digression, slowly updating. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 327. With Xue Xue's help, Chu Luiwei rushed home as fast as she could. Fortunately, she arrived before Chu Ning. After about 15 minutes, Chu Ning finally returned. "Father, how did it go?" Chu Luiwei asked. Chu Ning smiled. "It's all settled." Chu Luiwei was a little surprised. "They invited you back to discuss letting us go back, right?" "I rejected them." Chu Ning's answer was very straightforward. "And I told them that we will never go back." Chu Luiwei was stunned. Then the family head, "I went there today because I wanted to make things clear to them. This way, if the family head asks, I can give him an explanation. However, from the beginning to the end, I have no intention of forgiving them." Chu Ning looked at Chu Luiwei and sighed softly. "Because you are the person I want to protect the most in this world." Chu Luiwei's heart warmed up. She knew how much Chu Ning had compromised for her, so she felt especially grateful and warm. "Thank you, father." The next day, Chu Luiwei returned to the academy. The fire caused Joyo Tower to completely disappear. The elders and teachers in the academy were busy dealing with the remaining matters, so most of the students had more free time. When Chu Luiwei went to look for Mu Hongyu, she happened to see Liao Zhongshu. "Lu Yu." Mu Hongyu was very excited when she saw Chu Luiwei. "Thank you. I have already written a letter to father. They will send mother here soon." Chu Luiwei was also very happy. "That's good. It's just that the journey is bumpy, so mother will have to suffer." "Don't worry." Although Imperial Concubine Mother's health is not suitable for her to move too much recently, when Imperial Father heard that you asked for Deputy General Mu's help, he immediately found several powerful elders to think of a way to safely send Imperial Concubine Mother here. "I really don't know how to thank you." Originally, When Mu Hongyu asked Chu Luiyue for help, she didn't have much hope. After all, they were envoys from the Tianling dynasty, and they had distinguished statuses. Even Emperor Jiawen might not be able to invite them, let alone Chu Luiyue. Who would have thought that Chu Luiyue would be the only one chosen, and he even managed to convince Vice Admiral Mu to help. I didn't think that I would have to trouble Vice Admiral Mu to invite someone from the Tianling dynasty over. I really owe you a big favor for this. Chu Luiyue's lips curved up. It's fine. I also want to see what the celestial physician of the Tianling dynasty is like. After she died, other than Mu Qinghe, what happened to the others? Mu Hongyu's eyes lit up. Yeah. Speaking of celestial physician, Lu Yu, you can actually produce pills now. We didn't know about this before. You hit it too well. Now that Chu Luiyue can produce pills, he can be considered a real celestial physician. In the entire country Yaochen, there are very few people with such an identity. Besides, Chu Luiyue is still so young. I knew that you were definitely more capable than we thought, but I didn't expect. Mu Hongyu lightly snorted and glanced at Liao Zhongshu, who was beside her. The red blood goo in your body was cured by Lu Yu. You must have known about this long ago. Liao Zhongshu smiled helplessly and shook his head. I really didn't know. Unfortunately, the others didn't believe him. Previously, he pretended that the poison was still in his system and was bedridden, so he didn't attend the Qin Jiao competition. When he heard that Chu Luiyue actually produced pills and took the first place in the celestial physician competition, he was shocked for a long time. Only then did he realize that Chu Luiyue was the person who saved his life. Mu Hongyu wrinkled her nose, but she couldn't be bothered to argue with him. She was more interested in something else. Lu Yu, when will you go to the Tianling dynasty with Vice Admiral Mu? Chu Luiyue shook his head. It's not confirmed yet. He seems to be staying here for a while, and he wants to continue observing me. If I can't pass, I still can't go. Ah? So troublesome? Mu Hongyu looked disappointed. I thought you guys would go directly. Chu Luiyue laughed. I'm not in a hurry, so why are you in a hurry? I'm not in a hurry, but it's the Tianling dynasty we're talking about. Mu Hongyu held her cheeks with both hands, her eyes full of yearning. Who doesn't want to go to that kind of place? Lu Yu, don't you think everyone there is a genius? Everything there must be much better than here. Not necessarily, Chu Luiyue said calmly. Mu Hongyu was stunned. How do you know? Chu Luiyue paused and realized that he had said something wrong. Her eyes flickered and she smiled. Yes. If everything is good, then why did Vice Admiral Mu spend so much effort to come here? Now that you mention it, it does make sense. Mu Hongyu's eyes turned, and she suddenly thought of something. Right. You won first place in the Qin Jiao competition and chose to go to Tai Yin Academy's library to read for a month. However, Vice Admiral Mu has already chosen you. Do you still want to go? Although this is an extremely rare opportunity, it's not worth mentioning compared to the Tianling dynasty. Unexpectedly, Chu Luiyue said without hesitation. I'll go. I'm planning to talk to Vice Admiral Mu about this today. What? Mu Hongyu and Liao Zhongshu were shocked. Are you serious? You're really going? Lu Yu, do you know how many people don't have the opportunity to go to the Tianling dynasty like you? You're actually choosing Tai Yin Academy? Mu Hongyu widened her eyes. She felt that Chu Luiyue's decision was unbelievable. Liao Zhongshu was about to speak, but he suddenly remembered the red blood goo and swallowed his words. Chu Luiyue smiled. I have my own plans. In fact, she did not plan to stay there for a month. As long as there was any movement on Mu Qinghe's side, she could immediately come back. Moreover, although Mu Qinghe did not say it explicitly, based on Chu Luiyue's understanding of him, he should be planning to stay here for a long time. Chu Luiyue did not think that the reason he was staying was because of her. Therefore, this was also something that she was very curious about. Mu Hongyu wanted to say a few more words, but when she saw Chu Luiyue's determined expression, she gave up. All right, when are you going? The people from Tai Yin Academy seem to have left today. Our academy's elders Wu Rong and Elder Wei Cheng from Nanfeng Academy also went. Chu Luiyue understood. This was obviously to investigate Hing Jingchua and the others. She thought for a moment. It won't be too late for me to go after your mother arrives. Mu Hongyu was stunned, and her eyes reddened. Lu Yu, thank you so much. It's nothing. Chu Liuyue's lips curled up slightly. Mu Hongyu suddenly said, oh right. After you returned home yesterday, Chu Xianmin looked for you. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 328. This surprised Chu Liyue. She's looking for me? I don't know what she wants to do. I accidentally passed by your place yesterday and saw her loitering at your door. I went up to ask her what she was doing, but she didn't want to say anything and left in a hurry. Mu Hongyu shrugged and pouted. Maybe she wants to do something to harm you when you're not around. Chu Liyue squinted her eyes and tapped her fingers on the table. It's indeed strange for Chu Xianmin to take the initiative to look for me. However, if it's because of the person behind Red Blood Gu, it's hard to say. After all, during the Qingjiao competition, she had clearly felt an inexplicable threatening aura. I have a feeling that the other party is targeting me. Then, on Chu Xianmin's side, did Chu Xianmin come to the academy today? She asked. I don't know. She probably came. Are you going to look for her? Mu Hongyu was a little worried. Chu Xianmin was cunning and vengeful. Nothing good would come of her taking the initiative to look for Chu Xianmin. Besides, the crown prince even asked Chu Liyue to be his wife in front of everyone. This was equivalent to slapping Chu Xianmin in the face. I'm afraid she hates Chu Liyue to death now. However, after thinking about it, Mu Hongyu felt that her worries were unnecessary. How can Chu Xianmin be Chu Liyue's match? Hey, go then. I'll go and confirm mother's arrangements after she comes here. Chu Liyue nodded and got ready to leave. Liao Zhongshu also suddenly stood up. Lu Yu, I'm also leaving. Do you still not know where Chu Xianmin lives? Why don't I bring you there? The two of them looked at each other. Chu Liyue nodded. The two of them walked towards Chu Xianmin's residence. Liao Zhongshu sighed. Lu Yu, I owe you my life. If you need anything in the future, just let me know. Chu Liyue looked at him. He had just recovered from a serious illness, and his face was still somewhat pale. However, the expression in his eyes was incomparably sincere. Perhaps I can't help you with anything now, but as long as you say the word, I will go through fire and water without hesitation. Chu Liyue looked at him for a while and nodded gently. It's a deal. Liao Zhongshu smiled in relief. The two of them continued to walk forward for a while. Liao Zhongshu stood still and pointed at a certain place ahead. That's where Chu Xianmin lives. Chu Xianmin did not live with others because of her excellent results when she entered the school. I'll wait for you here. Chu Liyue couldn't help but think that Liao Zhongshu was indeed a smart person. He knew what he should do and what he shouldn't do. The smile on her face deepened as she lifted her foot and walked towards that direction. Just as he reached the door was opened from the inside. Chu Xianmin was about to leave when she looked up and saw Chu Liyue. She was shocked. What are you doing here? Chu Liyue sized Chu Xianmin up. It had only been one night, but Chu Xianmin looked a lot more haggard. Even though she used a veil to cover her face, one could still see the faint dark circles under her eyes. Her tired, bloodshot eyes also showed that she was not in a good state. Were you looking for me yesterday? Chu Liyue's question made Chu Xianmin hesitate. And no, Chu Liyue ignored her and walked past her into the room. You only have 15 minutes. Chu Liyue said lightly. Chu Xianmin turned around and felt that the pair of black jade-like eyes seemed to have seen through her. She clenched her teeth, closed the door, and turned to face Chu Liyue. Yesterday, that person came again. Chu Liyue raised his brows. When? Chu Xianmin shook her head. When I sent the crown prince back yesterday and came back to the academy, he had already been here. I didn't see him. He only left one thing behind. As she spoke, she walked to the table at the side and opened a box. Chu Liyue glanced at it from the corner of his eyes and focused. That's a letter? Chu Xianmin passed the letter to Chu Liyue. It was a letter wrapped in a red envelope. There was a strange picture printed on it, and there was a line of words in the middle. To Chu Luiwei. The handwriting was strong and smooth. However, Chu Luiwei felt a strong murderous intent from it. She did not take the letter. Instead, she looked up at Chu Xianmin. Chu Xianmin immediately said, "I promise that I didn't say anything about you. I don't know why he wrote you a letter. I really don't know." She only knew that the other party purposely asked her to pass the letter. It was obvious that he already knew everything that happened here. This was also a warning to her. Ever since she received the letter yesterday, Chu Xianmin had been feeling uneasy and worried. She originally thought that the other party would kill her directly. However, other than the letter, everything else was normal. This made her even more fearful. She did not know when the punishment would befall her. After she saw the letter, she hesitated for a long time before deciding to look for Chu Luiwei. However, Chu Luiwei was not around. She did not sleep the entire night after she came back. She kept thinking about this matter and hesitating about what she should do. When she faced Chu Luiwei's question, she subconsciously denied it because she had already decided to hide the letter. Who knew if this was a test from the other party? However, Chu Luiwei was right in front of her. She was terrified and decided to give the letter to her in the end. Chu Luiwei took the letter. Chu Xianmin heaved a sigh of relief for some reason. However, she then saw Chu Luiwei stand up to leave. She was shocked. "Why, you're not going to open it here? Aren't you afraid that I'm lying to you?" Chu Luiwei glanced at her nonchalantly. She could not be bothered to say that there was half a Xian formation drawn on the letter. This Xian formation's level was so high that even the Academy's elders might not be able to use it. Chu Xianmin knew nothing about Xian formations. She could not even tell that it was half a Xian formation. If she wanted to open the letter, she had to fill in the remaining half. Chu Xianmin did not have the chance to do anything even if she wanted to. Moreover, she did not have the guts to do so now. For some reason, Chu Xianmin felt that Chu Luiwei did not say a single word and only looked at her quietly. However, she felt that she was very small and laughable. She shut her mouth embarrassedly. Chu Luiwei kept the letter and left. Chu Xianmin suddenly thought of something and hurriedly shouted, "Oh right. Since I've been discovered and the letter has been given to you, can you help me get rid of the poison in my body?" Whenever she thought of the horrifying scene of the poison acting up, she would have goosebumps all over her body. She would be terrified the entire night. "I don't have any value to you now. Why, you can let me go." Chu Luiwei glanced sideways and glanced at her nonchalantly. "You really don't have any value in this aspect, but I still need you to monitor someone." Chu Xianmin was dazed. "Who?" "The Crown Prince, Rongjin. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network." Chapter 329. Si Family. Study Room. Si looked at the Empress, Si Huijing, in shock. "You said that Elder Meng is dead and Rongjin is missing? When did this happen?" The Empress knitted her brows tightly. "Yesterday." "Then why did you only tell me now? When I found out about this, it was already evening. How could I come out then? I even had to beg His Majesty for a long time to come today." The Empress rubbed her temples in frustration. She didn't sleep well last night, and she had nightmares. Her head was about to explode today. The Empress had a distinguished status, but she didn't have much freedom. Her every word and action was watched. She told His Majesty that too many things had happened recently and that she was frustrated. Thus, she wanted to go back to the Si family to take a look, so she came out legitimately. "His Majesty didn't say anything?" asked Si worriedly. The Empress closed her eyes. "His Majesty is angry with Rongjin, and he can't be bothered with me. He also wants to take this chance to give us a cold shoulder, so he naturally won't say anything." Si sighed, and he couldn't hide his anger. "I've heard about everything. Rongjin is too rash. He actually did such a thing. He's too confident in his position as the Crown Prince. Doesn't he know that there are many people in the Imperial City who want to catch him red-handed?" The Empress couldn't be bothered to mention Rongjin, but he was her most important son after all, so she had to help him. "I've already told him off. He promised that he won't do this again." Si sneered and didn't care. If his promise was useful, he wouldn't have done such a thing. I used to think that Rongjin was petty, but it seems like the problem is more serious than I thought. He's brainless. The Empress glared at him unhappily. Big brother, it's fine if other people say it, but why are you saying it too? You're his uncle. Siyi wanted to say something, but when he looked up and saw the Empress's haggard face, he paused and swallowed his words. Forget it, let's not talk about him. Rongjin and Elder Meng's matters are more urgent. What exactly happened? Tell me in detail. The Empress's expression turned solemn, and she immediately recounted what had happened yesterday. So, we can confirm that Elder Meng is dead, and Rongjin is nowhere to be found? Siyi asked blankly. The Empress nodded helplessly. In the entire Si family, only eldest brother and I know of Elder Meng's existence. Once His Majesty finds out, the consequences will be unimaginable. Therefore, I didn't dare to make it public and only sent people to search for him in private. We searched for an entire night, but we didn't find any traces of Rongjin. We didn't even find any useful clues. Siyi fell into deep thought. Since Senior Meng took her out, they must have left the palace. Have you sent people to search for her favorite places outside the palace? I did, but I still couldn't find him. The Empress sighed. That's why I came here today to ask Big Brother for help. If it doesn't work, we can secretly search the entire imperial capital. Perhaps we can find it. Easy for you to say. Siyi got up and paced back and forth in frustration with one hand behind his back. Even for the Si family, it's extremely difficult to achieve this. Besides, if we cause too much of a commotion, people will definitely find out. In less than half a day, His Majesty will know what we're doing. Then what can we do? The Empress was also a little anxious. Elder Meng is already dead, and Rongjin is alone outside. We don't even know what's going on. Now that her Pearl of Essence is destroyed, anyone can easily take her life. If His Majesty finds out, eldest brother, don't you know that the palace will immediately detect the death of every prince and princess? If something happens to Rongjin, His Majesty will definitely send people to investigate. If that happens, Elder Meng will definitely be implicated. Then, it will be the Si family and me. Rongjin's current situation is already bad enough. If this is exposed, it will only make things worse. Rongjin is really too much. She's getting older, but her temper is getting worse by the day. She didn't even think about the consequences of doing this. She'll harm us both. Siyi glanced at the Empress. Aren't you the one who spoiled Rongjin's temper? Besides, I see that you're so worried about her life not because you're afraid that something will happen to her, but because you're worried that she'll implicate you and Rongjin, right? If not, what can I do? The Empress was exposed, and her embarrassment turned into anger. It wasn't easy for me to fight for the Crown Prince position. If Rongjin falls, what else do I have to rely on? Rongqi? With his temper, he can't take on any big responsibilities. Rongqi's talent and abilities are average, so he can't be of use. Even if he's already a prince, he can't do anything. They're both princes, but look at Princely Rongxiu. He hasn't been in the imperial city for so many years, but he can still win His Majesty's favor by staying at Princely Mansion all day after coming back. It's really infuriating to compare oneself to others. Siyi waved his hands impatiently. Enough. There's no use saying all this now. We still have to find Rongjin as soon as possible. As long as we hide it from His Majesty, everything will be fine. All right, do you know why Rongjin asked Elder Meng to bring her out at this time? How would I know? Halfway through her sentence, a white light flashed across the Empress's heart. Rongjin also asked Elder Meng to accompany her out previously. She went to find Chu Luiwei. It was also after that time that Rongjin often looked at the same drawing repeatedly. She had unintentionally seen it before, and it seemed to be a simple map. Rongjin had also been talking about finding Chu Luiwei a few days ago. Chu Luiwei! She screamed in shock. Siyi was dazed. What has this got to do with Chu Luiwei? Brother, you don't know. Rongjin's disappearance is most likely related to Chu Luiwei. The Empress clasped her hands nervously and hated herself for not thinking of this earlier. It must be her. It must be her. Other than Chu Luiyue, who else can kill a stage 5 warrior so easily? Perhaps Chu Luiyue herself can't do it, but she has too many secrets and countless tricks up her sleeves. Brother, quick, get someone to find Chu Luiyue. Bring her here. Rongzhen must be with her. Si couldn't help but frown upon seeing her like this. Calm down. What do you think the Si family is? The Si family isn't the Imperial Guards. How can you casually capture someone? Besides, Chu Luiyue isn't an ordinary person now. Who dares to touch her? If something happens to Chu Luiyue, needless to say, Chu Ning, Tianlu Academy won't let this matter rest. Also, there's Princely Mansion. And the most important one, Mu Qinghe. The Empress bit her lip. Then, ask her directly. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 330. If Chu Luiyue didn't do it, what will you do? Si asked in a low voice. The Empress was stumped. She couldn't think of any rebuttal and could only mutter softly. It must be her. It must be. Other than her, it can't be anyone else. Si's head hurt. Jing, oh, listen to me. I know you're anxious about Rongzhen's disappearance, and so am I. But we can't do this. At this time, we have to be careful. Otherwise, if we're not careful, we'll lose everything. The Empress gradually calmed down. What should we do? Should we just sit here and wait? Si was silent for a while. I'll send someone to find out about Chu Luiyue's situation and see if there's anything strange. The Empress's eyes lit up. Isn't Si Ting at Tianlu Academy too? I heard that they're classmates, so they must have some interactions. It's best to let him go. Si was a little disgusted. He thought highly of Si Ting and had been grooming him as his successor. This wasn't something to be proud of. Based on Si Ting's personality, he would definitely be unwilling. Also, he wasn't willing to let Si Ting do this either. After the Qingjiao competition, Si Ting accumulated a lot of experience and has been focusing on cultivation. There's no need for him to go. Besides, it's just to find out some information. It's more suitable to let Si Yang go. He's also closer to Chu Luiyue. The Empress disagreed. Si Yang? Would he be able to do it with his jumpy personality? Big brother, this is a small matter, but it's the most important. Big brother, you might not know Chu Luiyue well, but she's very smart. If Si Yang goes, she'll probably realize that something is wrong. Si Ting is mature and cautious. It's better to let him go. Si Ye's face darkened, and he didn't say anything. The Empress carefully glanced at him, leaned closer, and pleaded in a soft voice, "Brother Yi, please forgive me." She pleaded, "Big brother, I know you dote on Si Ting the most, and I don't want to trouble him because of this. But, there's no other way, right? If you're really unwilling, I'll find her myself. I've troubled Big brother a lot all these years. I just hope that if anything happens in the future, you and the Si family won't be implicated." As she spoke, 2 streams of tears fell from her face. She was his sister after all, so Si Ye's heart ached for her. Seeing her in such a difficult position, he also felt bad. "Then, Big brother, I'll take my leave first." As the Empress spoke, she wiped the tears off her face and got up to leave. Si Yi shook his head helplessly. "Let Si Ting go." The Empress looked at him with surprise and gratitude, tears welling up in her eyes again. "Thank you, big brother." Si Yi sighed and patted her shoulder. "It hasn't been easy for you in the palace all these years. You've helped the Si family a lot. We are bound together for good or ill. This small matter was nothing. You've been out for long enough today. You should return to the palace as soon as possible. I'll let you know as soon as I have any news." The Empress thanked him a few more times before leaving. Prince Li's mansion. Rong Xiu reclined on the bed with his eyes closed. He stretched out an arm that was riddled with scars. Some of them were so deep that bone could be seen. It was badly mangled and looked extremely terrifying. Yuemo half knelt by the bed and carefully helped him change his dressing. Seeing the wounds on his master's body, Even though he was used to killing, he still felt terrified. He lifted the gauze. Because of the bleeding and pus, a large portion of the gauze had already stuck to the flesh. Umo took a sharp knife and carefully cut away the stuck part. However, some parts of the wound still ruptured unavoidably. Umo quickly looked up at his master and sighed in his heart. Based on his master's abilities, the collapse of Jianghu Tower would definitely not pose any threat to him. The reason why he was so severely injured was obviously because his master had done it on purpose. It was obvious who he did it for. Master, how long do you plan to recuperate for this injury? Umo took off the gauze and hesitated in the few bottles at the side. Rong Xiu said lightly, use the gray bottle. Umo paused. Master, the medicine in this bottle is not very effective for your injury. Why don't we use the white bottle? He didn't dare to ask his master to use the gold bottle, which was the best, so he could only settle for the second best. However, that was still much better than the gray one. Rong Xiu ignored his words and asked instead, how's Yanqing doing? Umo immediately replied, after you entered Jianghu Tower, Yanqing immediately went there. According to him, he seemed to have made some discoveries. He's on the way back now and should be back today. Rong Xiu grunted lightly. It was impossible to tell if he was happy or angry. The room fell into silence again. Umo hesitated for a moment and said boldly, Master, I know that you don't want to recover too quickly and arouse suspicion, but you have to think about Miss Luyu, right? She knows that you got injured because of her and must feel guilty. Your injury doesn't seem to be getting better day by day. Won't her heart ache every time she sees it? Rong Xiu's fan-like eyelashes trembled slightly. Then he slowly opened his eyes and looked at Umo thoughtfully. His eyes were pure and deep, like the most brilliant and mysterious starry night. It was as if he could see through everything. Suddenly, a cluster of golden flames flashed in the depths of his eyes. Umo's heart skipped a beat. Master? Digression, I've been having nightmares these few days. I dreamed that I was scolded for not updating properly, and even beaten up. I'll try my best not to be beaten up tomorrow at midnight. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 331. That golden light quickly disappeared as if it had never appeared. However, Umo was sure that he had not seen wrongly. His heart trembled as he hurriedly lowered his eyes. Master, Rong Xiu closed his eyes. After a while, he opened them again and regained his usual calmness. Continue. His thin lips gently spat out 2 words. Umo picked up the gray bottle and evenly sprinkled the powder inside on Rong Xiu's wound. The bitter smell of medicine wafted in the air. Umo carefully bandaged his wound with new gauze while feeling conflicted. After he finished treating Rong Xiu's wound and was about to put away the bottles of medicine, he finally could not help but say, Master, you haven't gone back for a long time. Do you want to take this chance to go back? Rong Xiu's expression was calm, and he did not say anything. Umo knew that this was a rejection, so he could only leave respectfully. However, when he reached the door, he recalled the golden flame that flashed in Rong Xiu's eyes. He could not help but turn around and plead. Master, are you really not going to reconsider? If Miss Luyu finds out, what has Mu Qinghe done in the past 2 days? Rong Xiu suddenly asked. Umo thought carefully and shook his head. Nothing. Other than the day of the fire at Tianlu Academy's Jianghu Tower, he has been staying in his residence for the rest of the time. He has not come out and has not seen anyone. Umo frowned as he spoke. Master, are you going to stay here and watch over Mu Qinghe? Who knows how long Mu Qinghe will stay here for? However, Master's situation does not allow for any delays. Rong Xiu pondered for a moment. You may leave. Carry on as usual. Yes. Umo responded but was still hesitant. Do you want to make arrangements for your return now? Rong Xiu shook his head. I know what to do. Liao Zhongshu didn't have to wait long before he saw Chu Luiwei walk out of the room. He asked in surprise, so fast? Chu Luiwei smiled. I found some clues. I'll go back and think about it. You should go back too. Only then was Liao Zhongshu relieved. He bid farewell to Chu Luiwei and left. Chu Luiwei returned to his residence alone. She went up to the second floor, entered her room, and locked the doors and windows before taking out the letter. At first glance, this letter was no different from an ordinary letter. However, the complicated Xian formation on it made Chu Luiwei understand that this was a letter that the other party had deliberately sent to target her. She took a deep breath. This Xian formation should be a level 5 Xian formation, but its difficulty could be considered one of the highest. Even a true level 5 mystic cultivator might not be able to successfully fill in the remaining mystic formations. The strength she had shown to the outside world was definitely not at this level, but the other party had sent such a letter. There was only one explanation. The other party firmly believed that she could solve this Xian formation and open this letter. Chu Luiwei's hand that was holding the letter tightened slightly. In this world, there were very few people who knew that she had such strength. Then, who was the person who was targeting her and knew her so well? Chu Luiwei had a faint premonition. Perhaps, the answer was hidden in this letter. She held her breath and concentrated, beginning to study the Xian formation on the letter. After a moment, she picked up a brush from the table and dipped it in ink. Then, she lightly drew a line on the letter and began to fill in the Xian formation. Time passed by minute, and the Xian formation on the letter gradually became complete. Because she didn't add any force and only drew the Xian formation, Chu Luiwei's process of drawing the Xian formation became much simpler. However, even so, this complicated Xian formation still took her a lot of effort. After about an hour, she finally finished drawing the entire Xian formation. When she finished the last stroke, the Xian formation on the letter suddenly lit up. Then, it transformed into countless rays of light and scattered in all directions. Chu Luiwei waited for everything to dissipate before she finally opened the letter. She reached her hand inside, intending to take out the letter. When she touched the letter, Chu Luiwei's heart suddenly jumped. Then she almost couldn't wait and unbelievably pulled out the letter. It was a piece of high-quality Xian paper. The texture was soft, glossy like jade, and extremely delicate. However, Chu Luiwei widened her eyes in shock. Because she couldn't be more familiar with this touch. Her hands trembled slightly as she held up the letter. Sunlight shone in from the window and actually penetrated the letter, leaving sand shadows on the ground, as bright as the moon. Chu Luiwei's heart seemed to have been struck by something. This is the Xian moon paper that was specially used in the Tianling dynasty's palace. It was extremely precious. Not to mention the palace servants, even the ordinary concubines and unfavored princes and princesses were not qualified to use it. The reason why she was familiar with it was because she was very fond of it. Whether it was books, paintings, or other things, she used the Xian moon paper the most. Countless guesses appeared in Chu Luiwei's heart in an instant. This Xian moon paper was extremely precious and had always been specially provided in the Tianling dynasty. It was impossible for ordinary people to get their hands on it. To be able to get this Xian moon paper and specially send it to her, she fiercely closed her eyes, trying hard to calm herself down, and slowly opened the letter. On the soft and delicate paper, there was only one line of handwriting. Shengguan Yu, long time no see. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 332. The sun was shining brightly, and a gentle breeze passed through the wooden window. The room was quiet and peaceful. However, Chu Luiwei seemed to be frozen on the spot, unable to move at all. The blood in her body seemed to have frozen at this moment, and her cold limbs seemed to have gone numb. In her mind, it was as if someone had smashed a huge hammer. It was dull and painful. She held the piece of paper. It was light and thin, but it seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds. She only felt her vision go white, and every word on the paper was like a sharp knife that ruthlessly pierced her heart. She almost couldn't breathe. Shengguan Yu, Shengguan Yu. This name had been buried deep in her heart, and she didn't even want to mention it in her dreams. Now, it had appeared clearly on a piece of moon rice paper. She had always thought that she had hidden it very well and had even deceived Chu Ning, who had been with the original body. However, she didn't expect that someone had already known about it. The other party clearly knew her biggest secret, but she didn't even know who the other party was. Chu Luiyue felt dizzy. She bit the tip of her tongue hard, letting the sharp pain wake her up. She quickly looked around. After confirming that there was no one else around, she heaved a heavy sigh and looked at the letter carefully. There was only one sentence on the paper. Other than that, there was nothing else. Chu Luiyue compared the handwriting of that sentence with the handwriting on the envelope and found that it was indeed written by the same person. If she had seen such strong and vigorous handwriting before, she would definitely remember it. Unfortunately, no matter if it was in her previous life or this life, none of the people she knew had such a handwriting. However, the other party obviously knew her and had a high status. Or rather, they were extremely powerful. Otherwise, they definitely wouldn't have been able to obtain the moonrise paper. Chu Luiyue stared at the letter and fell into deep thought. Who could it be? Since her rebirth, she had been staying in country Yao Chen's imperial capital. This place was thousands of miles away from the Tianling dynasty, and she had no way of contacting anyone from the past. Moreover, after experiencing the inhumane torture in the imperial ancestral hall, she had already lost her trust in everything in the past. Even Mu Qinghe, whom she had never suspected, had betrayed her, let alone the others. Her rebirth was her biggest secret and also her biggest trump card. She originally thought that she could become stronger step by step, and then go back and take revenge on those people. Take back everything that belonged to him. But now that this letter had suddenly appeared, she suddenly realized that things were developing in a direction that she could not foresee. How have you been? How have you been? Chu Luiyue murmured as countless faces flashed through his mind. Judging from his tone, he seemed to be quite familiar with her. However, she really couldn't figure out who the other party was. At this moment, she suddenly felt a strange movement in her dantian. Holding his breath and concentrating, the original spirit looked inside. Inside his dantian, the water droplet quietly floated. Directly below, within the heavenly square medicinal cauldron, a black-colored flame transformed into a legendary three-eyed eagle illusion. It was ferociously staring at the outside of the heavenly square medicinal cauldron. Dumpling? The two fiends were fighting with each other through the transparent heavenly square medicinal cauldron. Judging from the burnt fur on Dumpling's body, they had been fighting for a long time. Chu Luiyue couldn't help but hold her forehead. Why are you fighting again? It hasn't even been 2 days since you came out of Jianghu Tower, and you have already fought 5 times. Haven't you fought enough? Dumpling remained motionless as she stared at the legendary three-eyed eagle opposite her. Although the legendary three-eyed eagle was a divine beast, it didn't have a physical body now. Only a soul was left in the karmic fire, and its size was about the same as Dumpling's. The legendary three-eyed eagle's scarlet eyes were indifferent and cold. If it wasn't trapped in the heavenly square medicinal cauldron, it would have long rushed out and killed this reckless thing in front of it 1,000 times. No matter what, it was a renowned paragon back then. Now, it was reduced to fighting with a mere blood ferret. It was really shameless. Looking at the two fiends who were still at daggers drawn, Chu Luiyue pondered for a moment, looked at Dumpling and said, "Dumpling, if you continue fighting, I won't stand up for you." Dumpling swung its tail and angrily pulled it up. Chu Luiyue then saw that there was a burnt patch on it. "You're not angry because of this, are you?" Dumpling nodded fiercely. "That's it. Its beautiful fur had been destroyed. It had never suffered such grievances before. If it didn't get revenge for this, how could it continue living in this world?" Chu Luiyue was speechless as she looked at its angry and self-righteous look. "Isn't this because you provoked it first?" Although she wasn't paying attention to the situation in her dantian, it didn't mean that she didn't know anything. Dumpling choked. A look of mockery flashed across the legendary three-eyed eagle's eyes. "A mere third-grade fiend. Its level isn't high, but it has many problems." Dumpling was instantly enraged. Chu Luiyue glanced at the legendary three-eyed eagle indifferently. "You're a divine beast, but aren't you staying here and fighting with a mere third-grade fiend?" The legendary three-eyed eagle was stunned and felt extremely embarrassed. It flapped its wings fiercely. If it wasn't trapped by the heavenly square cauldron, it wouldn't have experienced such humiliation. Chu Luiwei saw that the two fiends finally stopped fighting, but another question arose in her heart. Dumpling was indeed a third-grade blood ferret. Facing the legendary three-eyed eagle, it should be respectful and fearful. However, the current situation didn't seem to be the case at all. Dumpling didn't seem to be as respectful as other fiends towards fiends that were of a higher grade than itself. It was like this when it faced the black flying python in Wanling Mountain, and it was the same when it faced the legendary three-eyed eagle now. But the key was that the legendary three-eyed eagle was a divine beast. What kind of secret was Dumpling hiding? Chu Luiwei looked at Dumpling and pondered for a while. She suddenly said, I remember that third-grade blood ferrets have the chance to break through and increase their grade. Dumpling, what about you? Dumpling was still hugging its tail pitifully as if it didn't care about this question. Chu Luiwei thought for a while and felt that there was no point in asking these questions. Dumpling wanted to follow her, and she could feel that Dumpling liked and relied on her. Perhaps this was enough. As for those mysteries, perhaps they would be solved in the future. Chu Luiwei opened her eyes and looked at the letter in her hands again. After a while, she put the letter away and placed it in her cosmic bag. The C family. Study room. Si Ting looked at Si Yi. His brows were slightly knitted on his cold face, and it was obvious that he didn't agree. You're asking me to find Chu Luiwei to ask about Rong Zhen's whereabouts? Si Yi coughed. I know that you don't like to do these things, but this is very important. I can only rest assured if I leave it to you. Si Ting paused and said coldly, I'm not going. I'm not going. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 333. Si Yi had already expected Si Ting to reject him, so he wasn't surprised and patiently persuaded him. Si Ting, I know that you have dealings with Si Yang and Chu Luiwei. This isn't difficult for you. Master, I can't follow your orders. Si Ting interrupted Si Yi, which was rare of him. Si Yi was stunned for a moment. It was only then that he realized that Si Ting was very resistant to this matter. But this doesn't just involve Rong Zhen. It also involves the Empress and Rong Jin. After all, the Empress is a member of the Si family. If anything happens to them, it will be a huge problem for the Si family. Si Ting glanced at Si Yi and calmly asked, The Empress is the fourth princess. She should immediately inform His Majesty about her disappearance and get the Imperial Guards to look for her. Why would the Empress secretly let the Si family do this? Also, it somehow involves Chu Luiwei? He remembered that Rong Zhen and Chu Luiwei didn't interact much. The only time they met was at Crown Prince Rong Jin's birthday banquet. That time, Rong Zhen purposely humiliated Chu Luiwei in front of everyone, but she was taught a lesson by Chu Luiwei in the end. Perhaps Rong Zhen hated Chu Luiwei from then on. According to her personality, it wasn't surprising that she secretly attacked Chu Luiwei after that. But now that she's missing, what does it have to do with Chu Luiwei? Si Yi was at a loss for words. He couldn't tell Si Ting about Elder Meng's existence. But Si Ting was stubborn. If he wanted to get to the bottom of it, then these things are very complicated. Anyway, even if it's for the Si family, what can you do by asking? Si Ye's head hurt. As long as you don't let Chu Luiwei find out that you're asking about Rong Zhen, she'll definitely know. Si Ting said resolutely. Chu Luiwei was smarter than expected. Many times, even he couldn't tell what she was thinking. Master, I've been classmates with Chu Luiwei for a few months, so I have some understanding of her. If this matter really had something to do with her, then once I open my mouth, she would definitely be immediately alarmed. On the other hand, if there's no relationship between them, then asking her out of the blue will only arouse her curiosity and suspicion. Therefore, no matter how one looked at it, it was useless to get any information from Chu Luiwei. Si Yi leaned back in his chair and fell into deep thought. He knew that Si Ting's words made sense. But other than that, what else could he do? Get someone else to go? He was really worried. Si Ting looked at him with a dark expression. Patriarch, Chu Luiwei has already been selected by Vice Admiral Mu. Do you really want to put the entire Si family in danger for the Empress and the Crown Prince? Si Yi was suddenly shocked. Mu Qinghe was resting in her room. Red Demon stood by the window and groomed its feathers from time to time. The wounds from the previous fight had already healed, but it still felt that it had affected its image, so it had been staying obediently for the time being. It wanted to wait until it was completely healed before going out. Once bitten, twice shy. I've taught you this lesson too many times. If you don't listen, you'll be the one who suffers in the end. Mu Qinghe glanced at Hong Yao and poured herself a cup of tea. Hong Yao pretended not to hear anything. Mu Qinghe looked at the rising white smoke without any expression on his face. You're only a 7th grade fiend now. How dare you fight with a divine beast? Hong Yao froze. It had not revealed anything from the beginning to the end. How did Mu Qinghe know? Mu Qinghe narrowed her eyes when she saw its reaction. It seems like it's true. It had been tricked. Hong Yao suddenly understood and was very annoyed. Mu Qinghe was just guessing and tricking it. Hong Yao glared at Mu Qinghe fiercely. It was always like this. It would betray its master sooner or later. Mu Qinghe picked up the teacup and rubbed it slowly. Divine beast. This place is indeed. His voice was very low, and it was almost inaudible. Suddenly, Hong Yao felt a familiar aura. Its eyes lit up as it flapped its wings and flew outside. Mu Qinghe looked up slightly and looked at the door with deep meaning. Chu Luiyue looked up slightly and looked at the house in front of her. This was Mu Qinghe's residence in the imperial city. There were no guards outside the door, and even the streets beside it were deserted. She didn't meet anyone on her way here. Those who didn't know would find it strange if they came here. However, Mu Qinghe was the one living here, so everything made sense. In the imperial city, there were countless people who wanted to visit Mu Qinghe in order to establish a relationship with him. However, nobody dared to do so. Even Emperor Jiawen didn't dare to disturb him, let alone others. She heard that Emperor Jiawen originally wanted to send a few people to serve Mu Qinghe, but he rejected them all. Hence, there wasn't a single servant inside or outside the house. Mu Qinghe lived here by himself. However, there was a transparent barrier outside the door. From afar, one wouldn't notice anything strange. However, once one got close, they would immediately feel a strong suppression. Chu Luiyue was thinking about how to knock on the door when a green figure suddenly flew out from the wall and went straight for her. Hong Yao? Chu Luiyue looked shocked, but she thought in her heart, Hong Yao's sensitive sense of smell is still the same as before. It can even tell that it's me from so far away. Hong Yao happily flew in front of Chu Luiyue. I was about to die from boredom these 2 days. I didn't expect Chu Luiyue to come today. Hong Yao, your master, creak. Before Chu Luiyue could finish her sentence, the door suddenly opened from the inside. An entrance appeared above the spirit formation. Hong Yao quickly flapped its wings, urging Chu Luiyue to hurry in. Chu Luiyue's lips curved up slightly as she walked in. Walking through the front yard and the corridor, Chu Luiyue finally came to a room. The door was open, and Mu Qinghe was sitting inside drinking tea. Chu Luiyue was hesitating whether to speak or not when Mu Qinghe said without raising her head, "Just come in." Chu Luiyue followed Hong Yao in. "Greetings, Vice Admiral Mu." After the first time, it was much easier to bow to Mu Qinghe again. Only then did Mu Qinghe look up. "If you feel bored here, then you can go and focus on your cultivation." Chu Luiyue was stunned for a moment before realizing that these words were directed at Hong Yao. Red Demon rolled its eyes, unwilling to give up. It had heard this kind of words countless times. If it was in a good mood, it might listen to it. But now, she was here. How could it be dismissed like this? Hong Yao landed next to Mu Qinghe's hand and drank tea from her teacup. Half of its head was almost buried in it. After drinking enough, it raised its head and shook its head violently. The tea splashed everywhere. Mu Qinghe gave it a warning look. Chu Luiyue suddenly said, "Vice Admiral Mu, I came here today to discuss something with you. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network." Chapter 334. Mu Qinghe then looked at Chu Luiyue. His voice was as cold and indifferent as ever. "Speak." Hong Yao knew when to stop. It immediately took the opportunity to run and hide behind the window. Chu Luiyue glanced at it from the corner of her eye and sighed in her heart. Hong Yao was really troublesome. It knew that Mu Qinghe hated it when people touched his tea, but it still dared to do so. It was really rare for it to survive until now. It was strange. Mu Qinghe came from a humble background. When he was young, he had to snatch rotten buns from beggars and did not have a good day. Later on, when he followed her, his conditions in all aspects improved a lot. However, he was not like other people who had risen from poverty and were passionate about those luxuries. Instead, he was wholeheartedly focused on cultivation and war. Except for one thing, tea. Even she did not know when he fell in love with tea. Not only did he like to drink tea, but he also liked to make tea. Chu Luiyue remembered that he had good tea brewing skills. Even the tea masters in the palace might not be comparable to him. She stopped thinking and looked at Mu Qinghe. She briefly told him her plan. So, I'm here this time to hope that you can approve it. As for the length of time I stay in Tai Yen Academy, it's up to you. Mu Qinghe picked up another cup and poured a cup of tea. He looked at Chu Luiyue with a scrutinizing gaze. It seems like you're sure that I won't leave here in the short term. That's why you have the guts to make such a request? Chu Luiyue's smile did not change. Didn't you say before that you would stay here for a period of time? I don't know how long you're referring to, but I'm here to ask. It's an extremely rare opportunity to borrow books from other academies' libraries for free. I don't want to miss it. Vice Admiral Mu, please understand. Mu Qinghe did not speak for a long time. Other than looking for a genius with a Daijing Yuan meridian, he did have other important things to do this time. It would definitely not end in 3 to 5 days. Chu Luiyue's request did not seem wrong. However, you can go if you want, but I have a question that you have to answer honestly. Chu Luiyue nodded. Vice Admiral Mu, please speak. Mu Qinghe stared at her. That day, in Jianghu Tower, did you get something? Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat. Then, her eyes widened slightly, as if she was surprised and curious. What do you mean? Mu Qinghe didn't say anything. He just looked at her with a deep gaze as if he wanted to expose her lie. His cultivation level was extremely high, so the pressure on his body was also extremely strong. His piercingly cold gaze was almost tangible. If it were anyone else, they probably wouldn't be able to withstand such scrutiny. But Chu Luiyue was different. She had met Mu Qinghe when he was at his lowest. She had seen him at his most miserable and pitiful state. She had also given Mu Qinghe a chance to become the youngest deputy general of the Tianling dynasty. She had seen him in his most glorious state. Hence, Mu Qinghe's gaze was completely useless to her. She frowned slightly as if she was thinking. After a while, she shook her head. Vice Admiral Mu, I'm sorry. I really don't know what you're talking about. That day, the situation was critical. Prince Li and I escaped with great difficulty. Not only did we not bring anything with us, but we also almost lost our lives there. What exactly do you want to ask? Mu Qinghe looked at the woman in front of him. Intelligent, quick-witted, and a genius. Her expression was so sincere that it even made him wonder if his initial guess was wrong. Chu Luiyue pursed her lips hesitantly. Then she asked softly in a probing tone, Vice Admiral Mu, are you looking for something? Mu Qinghe's gaze sharpened. The aura on his body instantly surged, and it surged toward Chu Luiyue. Screech! Hong Yao let out a clear cry. A green flame instantly flew in front of Chu Luiyue. It transformed into a barrier. It blocked Mu Qinghe's coercion outside. The two forces fought crazily. Bang! The tea set beside Mu Qinghe's hand shattered. Even the entire set of tables and chairs had many cracks on them. Chu Luiyue frowned slightly. She was just asking a probing question. She didn't expect Mu Qinghe to have such a big reaction. This only proved that she was right. But why did Mu Qinghe come all the way here? What exactly is he looking for? The forces of both sides gradually dissipated, leaving the entire room in a mess. Chu Luiyue glanced at the broken teacup on the ground. It seemed to be freshly soaked Jinjun Mei. In the past, Mu Qinghe never drank this kind of tea. She retracted her gaze. Vice Admiral Mu, Did you misunderstand something? I just wanted to say that very few people set foot on the upper floors of Jianghu Tower. Prince Li and I were able to come out safely from the 6th floor thanks to the things his mother left there. If you really want to find something, perhaps Prince Li will have some clues. The murderous intent in Mu Qinghe's eyes gradually faded. No need. As soon as he finished speaking, the room fell into a dead silence. Chu Luiyue felt that if this continued, the matter might not be settled. She could only cough to break the deadlock. Vice Admiral Mu, your tea spilled. Why don't I compensate you with a pot of tea? I happened to get a bottle of superior-grade Jianghu May some time ago. Although it's definitely not good enough for you, but no need. Mu Qinghe interrupted her and paused for a moment. I'll give you 10 days. Chu Luiyue smiled happily. Thank you, Vice Admiral Mu. Although this person's temper became more and more unpredictable, she was still very happy that he was willing to agree to her request. Mu Qinghe looked at the smiling girl in front of him and was momentarily dazed. That pair of bright and pure black jade-like eyes were too similar. They were clearly two different faces, but when they smiled, the expression between their eyebrows was so similar. However, when he took a closer look, he felt that it wasn't the same. There were too many things hidden in Chu Luiyue's eyes. That was an expression that only someone who had experienced countless hardships would have. She was different. She was always noble, pure, and clean. Mu Qinghe averted his gaze without batting an eyelid. During this period of time, the number of times he had thought of her was simply too frequent. This was not a good thing. Go back. Remember, you only have 10 days. Chu Luiyue noticed that Mu Qinghe's mood seemed to have changed a little, but she knew that it was no good for her to stay, so she happily bowed and left. Hong Yao followed her to the door reluctantly. She had only been here for a short while, and she was leaving. Moreover, according to what they said just now, didn't it mean that it would not see her for the remaining 10 days? Chu Luiyue walked to the boundary and looked back at Hong Yao, who was reluctant to leave. She leaned closer and whispered, "You're too young. I'll bring you a gift when I come back." Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 335. Hong Yao then cheered up again. Chu Luiyue stepped out of the barrier and left. Hong Yao watched as her figure disappeared. When it was sure that she had left, it suddenly let out a joyful cry. I finally have a present again. Hong Yao happily returned to the courtyard and saw Mu Qinghe cleaning up the broken teacup. Hong Yao was in a good mood, so it didn't plan to continue arguing with Mu Qinghe. However, it still couldn't help but go over and fly one round around Mu Qinghe. Mu Qinghe looked up and coldly glanced at Hong Yao. It seems like she knows how to coax you. Hong Yao proudly raised its head. Mu Qinghe said in a low voice, I won't help you in the future. I won't help her for your sake in the future. You're on your own now. Also, I know that you're so close to her because you think that she's similar to her. However, I'm warning you for the last time. It's hard to predict people's hearts in this world. If she knows this, she'll definitely think of ways to make use of you. Don't regret it then. After all, he was Hong Yao's master. How could he not guess Hong Yao's thoughts? From the first time he saw Chu Luiyue until now, there was only one reason why Hong Yao was so close to her. He could tolerate it once, but it didn't mean that he would let people take advantage of him. Hong Yao glanced at him faintly. Huh, stupid human. I wonder who's the one who'll really regret it then. Even though 10 days was relatively short, it already surprised Chu Luiyue. What made her even happier was that Mu Hongyu told her early the next morning that her mother had arrived in the imperial city. This took less time than she expected. The news of Princess Consort Pingzhang's arrival in the imperial city quickly spread, and Emperor Jiawen specially sent people to welcome her. However, considering that Princess Consort Pingzhang's health wasn't good, he didn't hold a palace banquet to welcome her. Mu Hongyu and Chu Luiyue went to Prince Pingzhang's mansion in the imperial city together. I didn't know that your father had a special residence in the imperial city. Chu Luiyue followed Mu Hongyu into the strictly guarded Wang Fu and was somewhat surprised. Mu Hongyu giggled. Because my imperial father will come back to the imperial capital for 2 months every 3 years. Therefore, His Majesty specially approved a residence for my father. I came here once when I was a kid. I didn't hear you mention it before. Why didn't you stay here after you entered the academy? Why did you stay in the academy instead? Mu Hongyu made a face. Who wants to live here? With so many people, there were also many rules. It was not convenient at all. It's best to stay in the academy. Chu Luiyue thought about it and agreed. Not only was the academy free and convenient, it was also safe. With Mu Hongyu's personality, it was hard for her to imagine living here alone. The two of them walked inside. When he arrived at the backyard, a white-robed old man with white hair was already standing there waiting for him. Upon seeing the old man, Mu Hongyu was overjoyed and rushed forward. Grandpa Wushan, you're here too? The wrinkles on Wu Shan's face bloomed like a flower as he chuckled. Young princess, it's been a few months since we last met. This old man misses you dearly. Quick, tell this old man, has the young princess been crying in the past few months? Mu Hongyu couldn't help but pout. Grandpa Wushan, we haven't met for so long. Why are you talking about this the moment we meet? I'm already 16 years old. I've stopped crying long ago. Wu Shan's face revealed a trace of surprise. The young princess has already broken through to become a stage 4 warrior? Mu Hongyu wrinkled her nose proudly. Of course. Young princess has really grown up. And she's getting more and more outstanding. If His Highness and Her Highness knew about this, they would be very happy. Wu Shan sighed. Mu Hongyu hurriedly asked. By the way, how is mother now? The smile on Wu Shan's face froze and a trace of worry appeared. Young princess, you should go and see for yourself. Mu Hongyu's heart sank. Could it be that mother's condition is worse than I imagined? That's right. After all, she has been traveling day and night. Perhaps her condition has worsened. I'll go and take a look, Mu Hongyu said as she pulled Chu Luiyue into the house. However, Wu Shan suddenly blocked the two of them and swept his gaze across Chu Luiyue. Look at me. I forgot to introduce her. Grandpa Wu Shan, this is Chu Luiyue. It's all thanks to her that Vice Admiral Mu is willing to help this time. Wu Shan was shocked when he heard the name. He hurriedly took a step back and cupped his hands. So it's Miss Chu. Sorry for the disrespect. Although they had just arrived at the capital city, the name Chu Luiyue was very well known. I really don't know how to repay your kindness this time, Wu Shan said with a face of gratitude. Senior Wu Shan, you're too kind. Hongyu and I are friends, so this is what I should do. Chu Luiyue glanced at the anxious Mu Hongyu and smiled. If you don't mind, I would like to visit the princess consort with Hongyu. Is that okay? Of course. Please come in. The princess consort's condition was very serious, but no outsiders knew about it. Wu Shan and the rest were very vigilant along the way. If it were someone else, they would definitely not agree. However, this person was Chu Luiyue, so there was no problem. After all, without her help, the envoy of the Tianling dynasty would not agree to hire a celestial physician to treat the princess consort's illness. Chu Luiyue and Mu Hongyu quickly walked into the house together. Wu Shan stood outside and watched over them. The moment they entered the room, Chu Luiyue saw a woman lying on the bed. Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat. This must be Mu Hongyu's mother. Her eyes were closed and her face was pale. Her cheeks were sunken, and there was an aura of death between her brows. She looked very haggard. Mu Hongyu's eyes reddened as she rushed to the bedside. Mother! When the princess consort heard the voice, her eyeballs seemed to move, and she slowly opened her eyes. Her eyes were dim, and she was exhausted as if she had exhausted all her energy. She looked at Mu Hongyu and reached out with difficulty to touch Mu Hongyu's face. She revealed a pale and weak smile as she said in a hoarse voice, "Yeah." Mu Hongyu's eyes instantly welled up with tears. She immediately lowered her head to wipe them away as if she did not want her mother to see her like this. However, as she held her mother's bony hand, she couldn't stop her tears from rolling down her cheeks. Mother, why are you like this? Mu Hongyu had left home to study at Tianlu Academy for less than a year. Although her mother's health was not good in the past, She was not like this. The princess consort helped Mu Hongyu wipe her tears slowly, but she quickly lost her strength. Another old man in green standing by the bedside stroked his beard. Young princess, don't worry. Wait for the people from the Tianling dynasty to come. There will definitely be a way. Mu Hongyu knew that this was her only hope now, so she could only nod and swallow her tears. A clear female voice could be heard. May I take the princess consort's pulse first? Digression, 12 a.m. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 336. Everyone in the room looked at Chu Luiyue. Mu Hongyu naturally had no objections and nodded in agreement. Then, she looked at Princess Consort Pingjiang and said, Mother, this is Luyu. She's my best friend in Tianlu Academy. Vice Admiral Mu only agreed to help because of her help. Princess Consort Pingjiang looked at Chu Luiyue with a loving gaze. Thank you so much, Mother. Luyu is also a celestial physician. You probably don't know, but she refined a pill during the Qingjiao competition a few days ago. In other words, she's a real celestial physician. Let her take a look at you. She might be able to help. Princess Consort Pingjiang smiled and nodded. I'll listen to you. Just as Chu Luiyue was about to step forward, the green-clothed elder beside her suddenly said, Young princess, I'm afraid this isn't very appropriate. Chu Luiyue looked up slightly. Mu Hongyu was stunned. Grandfather Ji Chang, what do you mean? Ji Chang stroked his beard and said earnestly, Don't worry. Young princess, I know you're thinking for the princess consort. However, I'm afraid Ms. Chu won't be able to help with this matter. Mu Hongyu thought for a moment and asked, You don't believe me? Do you not trust Luyu? Of course not. Ji Chang shook his head. Ms. Chu is very famous, and we've all heard of her. To be able to form a pill at such a young age is enough to prove Ms. Chu's shocking talent. However, the princess consort has been seriously ill for a long time. Even the top celestial physician in country Yaochen can't do anything about it, let alone Ms. Chu. Why don't we wait for the Tianling dynasty's celestial physician to come before we take a look? Mu Hongyu furrowed her brows in displeasure. Grandfather Ji Chang, I'm just asking Luyu to take my mother's pulse. It's not a big deal. Besides, the celestial physician from the Tianling dynasty hasn't arrived yet, so we can only wait. It won't hurt to let Luyu take a look. Aren't you being a little too cautious? Ji Chang looked a little troubled. Young princess, I didn't mean to stop you, but, Sai, you don't know. Before we came here, His Highness told us to keep the princess's condition a secret. We can't let anyone know about it, so... So you still don't trust Luyu? Mu Hongyu was really angry this time. She stood up and looked straight at Ji Chang with a solemn expression. Grandfather Ji Chang, Luyu has helped us so much. Why are you still so wary of her? If I can't even trust her, then there's no one I can trust in the capital. You're hurting my heart. Ji Chang didn't seem to expect Mu Hongyu to value Chu Luiyue so much. For a moment, he was at a loss. But, His Highness, I'll talk to Father about it. Besides, even if Father is here, he won't be so unreasonable. Mu Hongyu didn't want to talk to him anymore. She turned to look at Chu Luiyue. Luyu, don't take it to heart. Come and take a look at my mother. Ji Chang was a little embarrassed and could only take a step back. Chu Luiyue was deep in thought. This Ji Chang seemed to be especially reluctant to let her touch the princess consort. She walked forward and put her fingers on the princess consort's wrist. Ji Chang looked over. Chu Luiyue's expression didn't change. After a while, she let go of her hand. Luyu, how's my mother's condition? Can you see anything? Mu Hongyu asked anxiously. Chu Luiyue shook her head. The princess consort has been ill for many years and her body is extremely weak. But other than that, there's nothing I can do. Regret surfaced on Mu Hongyu's face. The celestial physician in the past also said the same thing. Moreover, she could clearly feel that her mother's condition was worse than before. Chu Luiyue patted her shoulder lightly. Don't worry, the celestial physician in the Tianling dynasty will definitely have a way. Mu Hongyu forced a smile. I hope so. Just as the atmosphere in the room became heavy, Wu Shan's voice suddenly came from outside. So it's Vice Admiral Mu. Sorry for not welcoming you, it's really disrespectful. Hearing the sound, the people in the room all looked outside. Chu Luiwei walked to the door and saw Mu Qinghe in the courtyard. Beside him stood a young man in blue. That man looked to be in his 20s and wore a blue brocade robe with a white jade belt around his waist, outlining his tall and smooth body. He was very tall. Mu Qinghe was a general and was already very tall and strong. But this man standing beside him was a head taller. But what was more eye-catching was that he had a pair of blue eyes. Those eyes were like the purest ice crystals, shining with a cold light. But there was a careless smile on his face, making him look like a demon that looked at the world with a cold smile. Chu Liyue's heart seemed to have been hit by something. How could it be him? Wu Shan was standing in front of Mu Qinghe and Lu Yu, extremely nervous. I'm so sorry. We didn't know Vice Admiral Mu was coming today, so we didn't prepare at all. Wu Shan was secretly ashamed of himself. He was already so old and had seen so much, but he didn't expect to be so nervous in front of these two young men. Actually, he couldn't be blamed. It was mainly because the aura of Mu Qinghe and the young man in blue was too strong, and he couldn't ignore it at all. Just by standing there, he already felt an inexplicable pressure, and even his breathing became a little labored. Mu Qinghe didn't want to waste time and looked up to see Chu Luiwei. Chu Luiwei went forward in surprise. Vice Admiral Mu, I didn't expect you to come directly. Hong Yu and I have just arrived, so please forgive us for not taking care of you well. As she spoke, she walked to Wu Shan. Senior Wu Shan, leave this to me. You can continue to guard the courtyard. Wu Shan instantly heaved a sigh of relief and felt grateful toward Chu Luiwei. Okay. I'll leave these two distinguished guests to you. Chu Luiwei nodded slightly. Wu Shan hurriedly retreated. It wasn't until he was 10 steps away that he carefully exhaled and calmed his wildly beating heart. The people of the Tianling dynasty were indeed extraordinary. The two of them looked so young, but their strength was far above his. Chu Luiwei then looked at the young man in blue beside Mu Qinghe and asked curiously, May I ask if this is the celestial physician you invited? How should I address him? Before Mu Qinghe could speak, the young man in blue spoke first in a languid tone. Jian Fengqi. He had a smile on his face, and he looked very friendly and gentle. His blue eyes were even more alluring. However, Chu Liyue's heart was alarmed. Nothing good would come out of this man's smile every time. In the past, she had many conflicts with him. She didn't know why Mu Qinghe was so close to him now. Chu Luiwei thought about it, but he didn't expect that the person Mu Qinghe invited would be him. Greetings, young Master Jian. Chu Luiwei curtsied. Jian Fengqi suddenly leaned closer to Mu Qinghe and laughed softly. Don't you think she looks like someone? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 337. Mu Qinghe glanced at him coldly with a hint of warning. Jian Fengqi didn't take it seriously and smiled flirtatiously. Even I can see it. Can't you see it? Those eyes are really… Jian Fengqi. Mu Qinghe's voice sounded like it was mixed with ice shards. Jian Fengqi finally restrained himself and shrugged. Okay, I won't say it. Although he was talking to Mu Qinghe, his eyes were fixed on Chu Luiwei. To be precise, he was looking at her face. May I know your name? He was tall and handsome, and when his icy eyes stared at a person seriously, it was as if they could transform into a surging sea, bringing with them an ambiguous and affectionate feeling that made people sink into them. Chu Luiwei couldn't remember how many girls he had won over with his looks. Everyone in the Tianling dynasty knew how flirtatious Jian Fengqi was, but there were still countless girls who flocked to him, just to beg him to look at them a little more. But he had always been in the midst of flowers and never touched a single leaf. Chu Luiwei couldn't figure out how he got rid of those girls, and how they didn't complain about him and couldn't forget him. Chu Luiwei tried her best to suppress the urge to punch the man in the face, and her lips curled into a perfect polite smile. Chu Luiwei. Oh, Jian Fengqi's eyes lit up for a moment, and he glanced at Mu Qinghe meaningfully as he dragged out his words. What a good name. Chu Luiyue had always been too lazy to pay attention to him, but now that there was a great disparity between their statuses, she had to accept it. Thank you for your compliment, young Master Jian. Luyu can't thank you enough for coming all the way here to help. Jian Fengqi was still smiling, but there was a trace of surprise in his heart. Most women would blush and their hearts would race when they saw him. Even the worst would have a look of admiration in their eyes. But this girl in front of him had never changed her expression since she saw him. This is rare. No wonder he could persuade Mu Qinghe to ask for his help. If there wasn't a special reason, he didn't think that Mu Qinghe would be willing to spend so much effort to invite him over. Not at all. It's my honor to have a beauty's request. Chu Luiyue rolled her eyes in her heart. She thought that many things had changed after more than a year. But now, it seemed that Jian Fengqi's coquettishness was still very good. Vice Admiral Mu, young Master Jian, this way. Chu Luiyue did not want to be entangled with him for too long, so she turned sideways and invited them into the house. Just lead the way, said Lu Yu nodded. Chu Luiyue didn't insist and took the lead. Looking at her back view, Jian Fengqi poked Mu Qinghe's arm and lowered his voice. I think I know why you invited me over now. Mu Qinghe's expression was as cold as usual. She looked straight ahead and didn't intend to bother with Jian Fengqi. But Jian Fengqi wasn't bothered by her cold attitude. Instead, the smile on his face became even more arrogant. I didn't say who she looked like just now. Why are you angry? Mu Qinghe paused in her footsteps. If you don't want the 5-colored origin stone, feel free to continue or go back now. The smile on Jian Fengqi's face froze. I was just joking. Why are you so serious? But I promise that I won't mention this again, okay? As he spoke, he lifted his feet and followed her. He thought to himself that this person's temper was getting harder to please. Chu Luiyue pretended not to hear what the two were saying. When they reached the door, Mu Hongyu and Ji Chang were already waiting there. Both of them were surprised to see Jian Fengqi so young. Ji Chang was fine, but Mu Hongyu had always been a straightforward person. Can this person do it? Was written all over her face. Jian Fengqi looked at Mu Hongyu with great interest. Miss, you don't seem to trust me very much? Mu Hongyu didn't feel embarrassed and said frankly. I think so. Jian Fengqi was waiting for Mu Hongyu to say a few polite words. He didn't expect her to admit it directly. The teasing words in his throat were suddenly choked. However, since you were invited by Vice Admiral Mu, you must be a very good celestial physician. Jian Fengqi felt a little better. He smiled lazily and wickedly. Miss, next time when you praise someone, don't pause for too long. Mu Hongyu nodded obediently for the sake of the other party's background. However, she was thinking in her heart, why is this man smiling so strangely? Chu Luiyue gave a simple introduction to the few of them, then directly led the topic to the princess consort of Pingjiang. Vice Admiral Mu, young Master Jian, this is the princess consort of Pingjiang. She is also the person who hopes that young Master Jian can help this time. The princess consort of Pingjiang smiled weakly. I'm really sorry. Both of you have worked hard to come here, but I can't even get out of bed. Jian Fengqi narrowed his eyes slightly. The princess consort seems to have been poisoned. The princess consort of Pingjiang widened her eyes slightly. Young Master Jian is indeed amazing. You can guess that I've been poisoned without even taking my pulse. Jian Fengqi raised his eyebrows. If he couldn't even do this, then he would be too useless. Mu Hongyu looked excited. She quickly moved aside and took Jian Fengqi's pulse. Young Master Jian, please. As she spoke, she walked to Chu Luiyue's side and whispered. The people of the Tianling dynasty are indeed extraordinary. Celestial physician who has treated my mother in the past has never been able to tell that my mother has been poisoned without taking her pulse. Chu Luiyue nodded. Although Jian Fengqi wasn't a good person, he was still skilled. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so presumptuous. Jian Fengqi took out a handkerchief and placed it on the princess consort's wrist before putting his long fingers on it. Mu Hongyu hesitated for a moment, but still couldn't help but add on. I originally thought that he wasn't a good person, but now it doesn't seem to be the case. Chu Luiwei and her looked at each other. She didn't know why, but she felt that Mu Hongyu's words just now seemed to have meant he wasn't a good person. However, seeing that Mu Hongyu wasn't infatuated with Jian Fengqi like other girls, she was greatly relieved. She didn't want Mu Hongyu to provoke this guy. Jian Fengqi raised his eyebrows slightly. It seemed that they didn't know that although their voices were very soft, he could still hear them clearly, right? Immediately, his expression froze. Everyone in the room was looking at him. Seeing the change in his expression, they all quieted down. Mu Hongyu couldn't hide her worry as she held Chu Luiyue's hand. Chu Luiyue gently patted the back of her hand. Princess Consort Pingjiang lay weakly on the bed. Although her eyes were dim and lifeless, there was still a faint trace of hope. Chu Luiyue suddenly thought of something. Her gaze turned slightly and looked at Ji Chang, who was standing at the side. At this moment, his hands were crossed in front of him, and his eyes were fixed on Jian Fengqi. He seemed to be particularly nervous. Chu Luiyue could even see him licking his cracked lips, looking worried and tense. Jian Fengqi let go of her hand. Ji Chang was the first to speak. Young Master Jian, do you have a way to cure the princess consort's poison? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 338. Jian Fengqi pondered for a moment. The poison in the princess consort's body seems to be a mixture of several types, and they were administered at different times. Mu Hongyu exclaimed. How could this be? All this time, she had thought that the poison in her mother's body was caused by an accident many years ago. She never thought that, mother, is what he said true. Mu Hongyu quickly looked at Princess Consort Pingjiang. Princess Consort Pingjiang's eyes flashed with bitterness, and she smiled bleakly. That's right, Jian Fengqi added. If I'm not wrong, the princess consort's body should have suddenly deteriorated in the past 2 months, right? Princess Consort Pingjiang nodded. That's it. Jian Fengqi stood up. The first few types of poison in the princess consort's body had been buried in her body for many years and had already seeped into her organs. But because they were not highly toxic, they did not cause too serious of a consequence. But recently, someone administered another type of poison, which triggered all the toxins in the princess consort's body at the same time. That's why she was defeated like a landslide, resulting in the current situation. Mu Hongyu looked as if she was struck by lightning, and she stared blankly at Jian Fengqi. Then, what should we do now? Can you get rid of all these poisons? Jian Fengqi frowned slightly, and he seemed to be in a difficult position. This is a difficult task. After all, these poisons were administered at different times, and they are of different types. To get rid of all of them, not only do we have to know what these poisons are, but we also have to avoid new problems during the detoxification process. If we're not careful, all our previous efforts will be wasted, and even. Jian Fengqi paused. Even if he did not finish the rest of his sentence, everyone knew what he meant. Mu Hongyu was a little absent-minded. Could it be that even the celestial physician of the Tianling dynasty could not do anything? Ji Chang heaved a long sigh, and his face was full of grief. Young Master Jian, please think of something. The prince and the princess consort are deeply in love and have supported each other for many years. If the princess consort... Of course. Jian Fengqi suddenly interrupted Ji Chang, and the corner of his mouth curled into an evil smile. Ji Chang was stunned for a moment, and the sorrowful expression on his face instantly froze. You mean, this poison is very difficult to deal with, but I didn't say that I can't deal with it. Jian Fengqi's smile deepened. Everyone finally understood what Jian Fengqi meant. Chu Luiyue cursed in his heart. As expected, he was still the same. If he didn't speak like this, it would seem that he couldn't show how powerful he was. However, Jian Fengqi also noticed that something was wrong with Ji Chang. Don't worry, everyone. I will definitely clean up the princess consort's poison and let her recover completely. Chu Liuyue's gaze quickly swept across Ji Chang's face before he lowered his eyes. She clearly saw the shock and fear that flashed across Jian Fengqi's eyes when he heard him say that he could cure the princess consort of Pingjiang. It's not hard to understand the shock, but what's with the fear? The fact that he could escort Pingjiang Wangfei all the way to the imperial capital meant that Pingjiang Wangfei trusted him a lot. Moreover, from the way Mu Hongyu addressed him and Wu Shan, they were also very close to each other. It doesn't make sense that he would be afraid after knowing that Pingjiang Wangfei's body could be cured. Chu Luiyue recalled that when she wanted to check Pingjiang Wangfei's pulse, Ji Chang refused several times, as if he was afraid of something. Perhaps he had a guilty conscience. Young Master Jian, is what you said true? Can you really cure my mother? Mu Hongyu didn't notice anything unusual. Her mind was only filled with Jian Fengqi's words. Jian Fengqi looked at the young girl who rushed to him in a few steps, her almond-shaped eyes shining brightly. His heart skipped a beat, and his smile deepened. Of course, Jian Fengqi always keep my word. If he couldn't solve such a small problem, then he would have wasted all these years. Mu Hongyu was extremely excited. She pounced to the bedside and held Pingjiang Wangfei's hand. Mother, did you hear that? Your illness will be cured. Pingjiang Wangfei didn't have any extra strength at this time. She could only smile with a pale face and look at Mu Hongyu. Chu Luiyue said, Hong Yao, it seems that the Wangfei needs to rest. Let's go out and talk. Mu Hongyu nodded repeatedly. All right. Mother, you rest here first. I'll come to see you later. Pingjiang Wangfei nodded reluctantly. I still have to thank young Master Jian and Vice Admiral Mu and Lu Yu. She finally closed her eyes and rested after saying those words with great difficulty. Chu Luiyue and the others walked out. Mu Hongyu just stood up and saw a handkerchief on Pingjiang Wangfei's wrist. She picked up the handkerchief and shouted at Jian Fengqi, who had already walked to the door. Young Master Jian, your handkerchief. Jian Fengqi paused in his steps and turned around to take a look. Chu Liuyue's lips moved. She almost directly asked Mu Hongyu to throw the handkerchief away. Jian Fengqi had a problem. He was a celestial physician and often had to take people's pulse. However, every time he examined someone, he would spread a handkerchief like this time and never touch it with his own hands. The material of the handkerchief was extremely precious, but he would only use it once and throw it away. He had been like this since Chu Luiyue met him. She didn't know why. Other than that, he had many hobbies that were neither too big nor too small, and he was very persistent. Even when she was the Heavenly Fate Princess, she also felt that this man was very fussy. Unexpectedly, Jian Fengqi stared at Mu Hongyu and didn't ask her to throw the handkerchief away. Instead, he laughed. Oh, I almost forgot. As he spoke, he walked towards Mu Hongyu. Chu Luiyue looked at him as if she had seen a ghost. What's wrong with him? Jian Fengqi seemed to have noticed something and tilted his head to look at her. Chu Luiyue immediately lowered her eyes and continued to walk towards the door. Jian Fengqi narrowed his eyes. He didn't know why, but he felt that Chu Luiyue seemed to dislike him. Even if she always had a polite smile on her face, he still felt that way. And this feeling was inexplicably familiar. He suppressed the thoughts in his heart and reached out to take the handkerchief from Mu Hongyu's hand. The two people's hands touched for a moment. However, he didn't seem to feel it. He bowed slightly with a smile on his face. There was a hint of elegance in his eyes. Thank you, Miss Mu. Mu Hongyu smiled brightly. Young Master Jian, you're welcome. If there's anything you need my help with in the future, just let me know. Jian Fengqi looked at her and raised his eyebrows slightly. This Mu Hong, it seems a little too innocent. If an ordinary woman was touched like this, even if she wasn't tempted, her face would turn red. However, Mu Hongyu didn't seem to have any reaction at all. Only then did he vaguely realize that the bright light in her almond-shaped eyes was indeed because of her mother's recovery, and not because of him. This made him feel a little conflicted. Why are these two women each weirder than the other? Chu Luiyue, who had walked out of the door, waved at Mu Hongyu. Hongyu, digression, why is it so long? Because I went to the hospital in between. My body is a little inflamed, but it's not serious. Love mobile users, Please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from love. Chapter 339. Mu Hongyu responded and immediately walked towards Chu Luiyue. She didn't even spare a glance for Jian Fengqi. Jian Fengqi was speechless. What was with this feeling of being ignored and despised? He looked down at the handkerchief and quietly grabbed it in his hand. When he turned around, his expression had already returned to normal. The few of them walked out, leaving only Ji Chang inside. Young princess, the princess consort is weak. Shall I stay here to take care of her? He said to Mu Hongyu. Mu Hongyu thought about it and was about to agree when Chu Luiyue suddenly squeezed her hand. Mu Hongyu's mind raced, and she immediately realized something. She hurriedly changed the words she was about to say. You've been taking care of mother all this time. You must be tired. You should go and rest first. Ji Chang was stunned. Young princess, don't worry. I'm still in good health. As for the princess consort, His Highness entrusted everything to me and Wu Shan. We naturally don't dare to slack off. If the princess consort, Vice Admiral Mu and young Master Jian are here, not only is she safe, but even if something happens to the princess consort, they can immediately deal with it. Senior Ji Chang, don't worry too much. Chu Luiyue smiled. But, don't tell me you don't trust these two? Chu Luiyue said jokingly, but there was a hint of scrutiny in his eyes. I don't dare. Ji Chang's voice lowered. I'll go and rest first. If there's any problem, I'll definitely rush over immediately. Young princess, don't worry too much. Mu Hongyu nodded. Go ahead. We'll be here. Ji Chang had no choice but to turn and leave. Under the pressure of Mu Qinghe and Jian Fengqi, he didn't even look back. When his figure finally disappeared from sight, Mu Hongyu couldn't help but look at Chu Luiyue. Luyu, did you deliberately send Grandpa Ji Chang away? Chu Luiyue asked, don't you feel that something is wrong? Mu Hongyu thought about it carefully and murmured with uncertainty, I don't think so. But he didn't seem to want to leave just now. Lu, you might not know this, but Grandpa Ji Chang and Grandpa Wu Shan have been with father since a long time ago. They have been secretly protecting mother and me all these years. He's probably just worried. Chu Luiyue looked at her quietly. Mu Hongyu's voice gradually became softer, and her expression was somewhat shaken. Hongyu, don't tell me you didn't find it strange. Chu Luiyue said lightly. Mu Hongyu was a straightforward person and wasn't shrewd, but that didn't mean that she was stupid. On the contrary, she was very smart. It was only because she was too close to Ji Chang that she trusted him too much that she couldn't see it clearly for a moment. Mu Hongyu frowned. Of course, she could tell that something was wrong. Grandpa Ji Chang seemed to be especially protective of mother. In the beginning, he wasn't willing to let Chu Luiyue take her pulse, and he wasn't willing to leave just now. More importantly, he didn't seem to be as happy as she thought he would be when it came to her mother's recovery. He had followed father and mother for so many years, and he had been running around for mother's illness many times in the past. But now that there was hope, his reaction was a little strange. You mean? Mu Hongyu looked at Chu Luiyue with uncertainty. Chu Luiyue chuckled. Just look at the future. However, you have to remember one thing. In this world, no matter how close the person is to you, no matter how much you trust them, they can still betray you. When that time comes, you might not even know how you died. Mu Qinghe's body suddenly stiffened. Jian Fengqi glanced at Chu Luiyue. Interesting. Of all the people who heard this, it had to be Mu Qinghe. If he hadn't been sure that Chu Luiyue didn't use any disguise technique, he would have suspected that this was deliberately said for Mu Qinghe. That makes sense. Jian Fengqi clapped twice, as if he agreed. You may know a person for a long time without understanding his true nature. Many things can't be seen from the surface, and sometimes misunderstandings can arise. Don't you think so, Miss Mu? Mu Hongyu blinked and suddenly realized something. This Jian Fengqi seemed to be talking about her. She coughed and finally felt a trace of awkwardness. That's true. Thank you, Lu Yu and young Master Jian. I will be more careful in the future. Chu Luiyue looked at Jian Fengqi with a natural expression. Young Master Jian, I wonder, How do you plan to treat the princess? No matter what kind of medicine you need, we will definitely get it. Jian Fengqi said leisurely, there are several kinds of poison in her body. It is impossible to remove them all at once. Moreover, her body can't withstand such a heavy dose of medicine. We can only make a decoction and let her take it first, and then let her take the antidote pill. How long will it take? Jian Fengqi raised a finger. 1 day is enough. Mu Hongyu was a little shocked. 1 day is enough? This day refers to the day I need to make the decoction and pill, not to let her recover completely. After that, she will need to take the decoction for a month to completely remove the remaining poison. But that is very simple. You just need to find someone to make the decoction according to my prescription. Chu Liyue thought to herself, as expected. Jian Fengqi had always only taken care of the most important step when treating patients. He was always too lazy to do the rest. He always felt that it was a waste of his talent and energy to do those things. But it was already very good that he was willing to do this step. I heard that Miss Chu is also a celestial physician? And you can already make pills now? Jian Fengqi asked with great interest. Chu Liyue nodded. It's just luck. You are only 14 this year? Although you are not as good as, but you are not bad. No wonder Mu Qinghe was willing to help you. Chu Liyue smiled very modestly. Jian Fengqi felt more and more depressed. This Chu Liyue seemed to be doing everything well, but the emotions in her eyes did not fluctuate. It was as if no matter what he said, it would not affect her. He turned his gaze slightly. Mu Hongyu was staring at the void. Her eyes were wandering, obviously thinking about something. He lost most of his interest and lazily said to Mu Qinghe, Mu Qinghe, I will be refining pills here today. Help me guard. Mu Qinghe said coldly. Impossible. Because there was no need for that. Although Jian Fengqi specialized in celestial physician, his mystic master level was not low. Even if there were any accidents here, he alone would be more than enough to deal with it. Jian Fengqi had already expected this answer, so he did not mind and only shrugged. Then I will go by myself. With that, he walked to another room alone. The moment he opened the door, he waved his sleeve and a faint blue barrier appeared behind him. As for his figure, it was immediately concealed. He stepped into the room. At the same time, a cluster of flames suddenly rose from his hand. The square handkerchief instantly dissipated. Digression. Small ailments can really kill? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience from LoveNet. Chapter 340. After settling Mu Hongyu's matter, Chu Liyue planned to leave. Mu Hongyu was a little surprised. You're leaving now? Chu Liyue glanced at Mu Qinghe and smiled. Time is of the essence, so I have to leave quickly. But don't worry, since Vice Admiral Mu and young Master Jin have agreed to help, they will definitely take care of it. If you need any herbs, you can go to Zhenbao Pavilion to look for Second Master Yen. Put all the expenses on my tab. When I return, I will look for him myself. Mu Hongyu shook her head resolutely. No way. You have already helped me a lot. How can I let you spend more? Chu Liyue thought about it and didn't insist. Then tell him to give me face and ask him to help you. He will help you gather the herbs you need. The poison in Princess Consort Pingzhang's body was indeed difficult to detoxify, but with Jian Fengqi's strength, it wasn't a problem. It was just that he might need a few special herbs. It might not be easy to find them in the capital, but Zhenbao Pavilion would definitely have them. If Mu Hongyu went by herself, Second Master Yen might not be willing to take them out. That was why she asked Mu Hongyu to mention herself. In this way, Second Master Yen would most likely be willing to help. Chu Liyue didn't tell Mu Hongyu the details. But Mu Hongyu was extremely intelligent. She had already guessed something and wanted to say a lot of things, but when they reached her mouth, they seemed to be stuck. In the end, she only said one sentence. Luyu, thank you. Chu Liyue nodded. Although she didn't get along with Jian Fengqi and didn't like him, he was indeed a man of his words. If he said that he would refine pills here to help Princess Consort Pingzhang, then he would definitely do it. Mu Hongyu's face was full of reluctance. Chu Luiwei wanted to remind her to be careful of Jian Fengqi, but she felt that it was unnecessary. Mu Hongyu was an iron tree and would only be Jian Fengqi's nemesis. Chu Luiwei looked at Mu Qinghe and asked with a smile, "Vice Admiral Mu, do you want to stay here, or?" Mu Qinghe didn't say anything and left. Mu Hongyu leaned in and whispered, "Lu, don't you think Vice Admiral Mu's expression is a little bit bad?" Chu Luiwei lightly said, "Oh? I don't think so." Really? Just now, for some reason, his expression suddenly changed. Although he did an expression of his expression, but, Mu Hongyu frowned and couldn't think of how to describe it. In short, he just felt bad, as if he thought of something bad. I haven't seen his expression like that. Chu Luiwei smiled faintly. I didn't notice. If possible, she wanted to chase after him and ask him face to face what was wrong. Was he upset? Or embarrassed? All she did was say betrayal. What was he thinking? In the past year or so, when had he ever thought about anything related to her? Chu Luiwei took a deep breath. She suddenly wanted to know what expression Mu Qinghe would have if he knew that she was her? And those people, Luyu? Mu Hongyu suddenly felt that Chu Luiwei's aura had turned cold, and it was shrouded in a strong sense of loneliness and despair. She felt uneasy and hurriedly spoke. Chu Luiwei came back to her senses and saw her worried face. Are you okay? The aura on Chu Luiwei's body quickly dissipated, and a faint smile appeared on her lips. I'm fine. Those people should be the ones who are not fine. Mu Qinghe returned to his house. It was rare for him to be in a trance, and his heart felt like it was blocked by something. It was very uncomfortable. He closed his eyes and tried to calm himself down, but Chu Luiwei's words kept echoing in his mind like the most profound curse. In this world, no matter how close the person is to you, no matter how much you trust them, there is a possibility that they will betray you. When that time comes, you may not even know how you died. The woman's clear and gentle voice rang in his ears again and again. This is not right. This is not right. Mu Qinghe barely found a trace of rationality. He sat on the chair and habitually wanted to make himself a cup of tea. Every time he was upset, he would do this to calm himself down. However, when he poured the tea, he stared at the teacup and could not help but think of something. Everyone thought that he loved tea, but in fact, that was not the case. It was just that making tea could always calm him down. In the past, a burning pain came, and he immediately woke up. Only then did he realize that because he was absent-minded, the hot tea had spilled on his hand. He closed his eyes fiercely and angrily swept the tea set to the ground. Crash! A crisp cracking sound echoed in the room, making it seem especially empty. Hong Yao, who was standing on the windowsill, looked back at him and lazily buried its head in its wings. A sharp pain suddenly came from his heart. Mu Qinghe's expression changed. He suddenly covered his chest with one hand and gasped for breath. Immediately, he took out a diamond-shaped bronze mirror with difficulty. Hong Yao did not move, but its body tensed up. The next moment, a dazzling light suddenly flashed on the bronze mirror. In the room, an invisible pressure suddenly descended. On the bronze mirror, the light gradually dissipated, and a scarlet sea appeared. A voice came out from it. Mu Qinghe, it's been so long. Why haven't you made any progress on what I asked you to do? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 341. It was a young man's voice. It was low and indifferent, but there was a hint of coldness in it that made one fearful. Mu Qinghe endured the pain in his heart and gritted his teeth. Don't worry, master. I'll do it as soon as possible. You don't have much time left. The seawater in the bronze mirror seemed to be rippling, and the thick smell of blood was suffocating. Everyone else thinks that you went to look for the Daijing Yuan meridian, but this reason can't be delayed for too long. If you can't do it as soon as possible, then you don't have to come back in the future. Because of the pain, Mu Qinghe's lips turned even paler. I understand. The blood-red seawater gradually dissipated, and a white light enveloped it. After a while, the bronze mirror returned to normal. Mu Qinghe then felt that the pain in his body seemed to have lessened. He closed his eyes, put away the bronze mirror, and leaned against the chair dejectedly. Hong Yao, who was standing by the window, suddenly flew over and landed on his shoulder. Mu Qinghe opened his eyes and glanced at it. Hong Yao inched closer and rubbed against his face. Mu Qinghe was silent for a long time before saying softly, "Don't worry. It won't take long." Chu Luiwei returned to the academy and told Yi Zhiding about her plans to go to Tai Yen Academy. Although Yi Zhiding was reluctant, he knew that this was an excellent opportunity. It would be a pity to give it up. In the end, he decided to send Chu Luiwei to Tai Yen Academy personally. If it weren't for the fact that the academy still had to deal with Jiuyo Tower, he even wanted to go there and accompany Chu Luiwei before bringing her back. Chu Luiwei repeatedly said that she would only stay there for 10 days and would be back soon. Yi Zhiding was finally relieved. The master and disciple pair packed up and headed there together. Country Xing Luo, Tai Yen Academy. After the Qing Jiao competition ended, Cheng Han and the elders had already brought the students back. Because they didn't get good results, the atmosphere in the entire academy was heavy and stifling. Since Heng Jingchua had used the red blood goo during the Qing Jiao competition, the other two academies had also sent their elders to Tai Yen Academy to investigate. Everyone who had dealings with Heng Jingchua was investigated. Tai Yen Academy had never experienced something like this before. Naturally, they felt extremely embarrassed this time, and everyone was panicking. Who knew what kind of people Heng Jingchua had killed before he died? Even if it wasn't red blood goo, it could be some other poison. In short, the entire academy was in a mess, and Cheng Han was also in a terrible fix. He even handed the herb mountain, which he had always meticulously taken care of, to Situ Xingchen. The so-called herb mountain was actually one of the many mountains behind Tai Yen Academy. It was only because there were all kinds of precious herbs growing on it that it was called the Herb Mountain. However, even though the Herb Mountain was in Tai Yen Academy, it belonged to Cheng Han. Thus, not to mention the students, even the elders in the academy did not have the right to approach the Herb Mountain. Situ Xingchen stayed on the Herbal Mountain for 2 days and realized that something was missing, so she wanted to go back to take it. She walked down the mountain, and when she reached the foot of the mountain, she saw a few familiar figures not far away. They were a few young men and women. Even though they were all wearing the academy's uniform, Situ Xingchen still recognized them at one glance because she had always been on good terms with them. She was about to go up and greet them when she heard her name. "Why haven't I seen Xingchen these past 2 days?" asked one of the young men. Situ Xingchen's lips moved, but before she could speak, she heard another young girl laugh. How can she still have the face to come out now? Situ Xingchen's body suddenly froze as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over her head. Almost subconsciously, she took 2 steps back and hid behind a tree. "Xiao Yun, aren't you going overboard with your words? Xingchen didn't do anything wrong. How can you say that about her?" The young man seemed a little angry. "Ha, I'm going overboard? Who doesn't know that she won first place in the Celestial Physician competition because of Chu Liuyue's pills? Luckily, I didn't go this time. If not, it would have been so embarrassing. I really don't know how she still has the face to come back to the academy," said the other girl with a mocking smile. "That's right. I heard them say that Chu Luiwei didn't even touch her back then. She failed because she wasn't capable enough. In the end, she actually pushed the blame to Chu Luiwei. Who knew that he would really succeed? He even helped her win first place. If it were me, I wouldn't dare to ask for first place." The young man was so angry that his face flushed red. But Xingchen's talent and abilities are also very good. Who can compare to her when you're talking about her here? Of course, we can't compare to her, so we've always listened to her. But this time, she embarrassed the entire academy. Can't we be a little unhappy? Zhang Ling, we know that you like her, but why don't you think about it? Has she ever looked you in the eye? The young man choked and couldn't say anything. Situ Xingchen's standards are very high. So many young talents have proposed to her, but she didn't like any of them. Great, now her reputation is half ruined. Let's see if so many people still like her. Situ Xingqian was so angry that her entire body trembled, and her fingernails dug deep into her palms. Hadn't she suffered enough humiliation during this period of time? I didn't expect these people to talk about her like this. Countless people in Taiyan Academy and even the entire country Xingluo probably think this way. Just as she was thinking of how to deal with these people, she heard one of the girls say, "Oh, right. I heard that Chu Luiwei arrived at our academy today?" Digression. I feel better after taking the pills. I don't know if it's the side effects, but I feel nauseous the whole morning. Chapter 342. Situ Xingqian knitted her brows. Yeah. I think Tianlu Academy's director, Elder Yi, personally escorted her here. She should have reached the library by now, right? Wasn't she chosen by the Tianling dynasty's envoy? Why is she still here? Who knows? But since she's here, she must have been allowed, right? Have you heard that she lacked a Yuan meridian since she was young? She was born a good-for-nothing, but she suddenly became a genius a few months ago? I really don't know what kind of person Chu Luiwei is. She's a genius, but it's a pity that she's engaged to country Yao Chen's Prince Li. That's a medicine pot. I heard that Prince Li is very handsome. Maybe someone likes him? Ha. The few figures gradually disappeared, and their voices gradually disappeared. Situ Xingqian remained silent for a long time, and she even stood until her legs turned numb. She realized that she really couldn't accept everything that had happened. No matter if it was the Qing Jiao competition or the engagement between Rong Xiu and Chu Luiwei, she pondered for a long time before turning around and returning to the herb mountain. Halfway up the mountain, there were a few wooden houses. One of them was specially for her to rest. She entered the house, locked the door, and sat in front of the study table. The rich herbal fragrance filled her nose. This smell always calmed her down in the past, but it only reminded her of that humiliating day now. She sat quietly for a while and took out a letter. This letter was from Rong Jin. Before she left the imperial city, Rong Jin secretly sent someone to deliver this letter. However, her thoughts were all on Rong Xiu back then, so she didn't open it. Now, she stared at the letter for a while before opening it without hesitation. The last rays of the setting sun shone in through the window and dragged Situ Xingqian's shadow very long. A ripple suddenly appeared in the air. A figure walked out, and it was Elder Lian Ning. Eldest princess. A low and hoarse voice sounded in the room. Situ Xingqian then recovered her senses and shifted her gaze away from the letter. She subconsciously put it away before looking at Elder Lian Ning. Situ Xingqian saw that it was him and heaved a sigh of relief. However, her eyes were still filled with shock. Elder Lian Ning sensed that something was wrong with her and couldn't help but ask. "Eldest princess, what happened to you?" His gaze swept past the letter in Situ Xingqian's hands, and his expression froze. "This is... when you went to investigate Chu Luiwei, did you find anything?" Situ Xingqian interrupted Elder Lian Ning and asked. Even Elder Ning did not continue to delve into the letter. He only bowed slightly. "We found two things. Firstly, on the 10th of July, Chu Xianmin sent someone to assassinate Chu Luiwei. Those people took Chu Luiwei out of the imperial capital and wanted to kill her in the forest. However, on that day, Chu Luiwei did not die. Instead, he returned safely to the Chu family." Situ Xingqian knitted her brows. She had also heard about Chu Xianmin's incident. It was normal for her to secretly kill Chu Luiwei in order to become the crown princess. "You think there's something wrong with this?" "Of course. Your Highness, don't forget that Chu Luiwei was still a good-for-nothing with a damaged Yuan meridian back then. As for the people Chu Xianmin sent, according to my investigation, one of them was a Stage 3 warrior." Situ Xingqian was stunned. Even though a Stage 3 warrior was not considered strong, it was not difficult for him to deal with a girl who had no cultivation. If Chu Luiwei returned alive, then what about the other three people? They're dead. A strange smile appeared on Elder Lian Ning's face. Also, it's the kind where no one knows if they're alive or dead. As the three people's identities were ordinary, and Chu Xianmin was afraid of being exposed, She purposely suppressed this matter. Hence, their disappearance did not attract anyone's attention. Coincidentally, Chu Lue underwent a drastic change from that day onward. After returning to the Chu family, she bought many herbs from Zhenbao Pavilion. Not long after, she was admitted to Tianlu Academy. Everyone knew what happened after that. Many guesses flashed across Situ Xingqian's mind. She hurriedly asked, "What about the second matter?" The second matter is coincidentally related to that forest. You probably don't know that country Yao Chen's fourth princess, Rongzhen, has gone missing. Situ Xingqian knew about Rongzhen, but they did not interact much, so she did not have a deep impression of her. Didn't her pearl of essence shatter and she's been recuperating in the palace? Why did she suddenly go missing? Also, there doesn't seem to be any news about this. Even though she returned to Taiyan Academy, she did not cut off contact with the outside world. If Rongzhen really went missing, such a big matter should have spread. Because Rongzhen ran out on her own. He had been secretly investigating Chu Lue all this time and did not expect to find out something. That day, Chu Lue was forcefully taken away from Tianlu Academy by a stage 5 warrior. I hid my aura and followed them all the way. In the end, I discovered that they went to that forest. I did not follow them in, but not long after, Chu Lue came out. After that, people started secretly searching for Rongzhen's whereabouts in the imperial city. As long as all these things were connected, it was not hard to imagine what happened that day. Situ Xingqian was shocked and only spoke after a while. That means that Chu Lue killed Rongzhen? Elder Lian Ning pondered for a moment. That might not be the case, but after she left, I went into that forest to search, but I didn't find any traces. As for the Empress, she still doesn't dare to make a big fuss about it. Situ Xingqian's eyes sparkled as she softly muttered, "That's so. In that case, Chu Luyue's actions are really secretive, but there's no such thing as an absolute secret in this world. She probably didn't expect that the things she did were already known by others. What a joke. She has both fame and fortune now, and she even came to our academy's library. Eldest princess, what do you plan to do?" asked Elder Lian Ning. Rongzhen must have another reason for targeting Chu Lue. What do you think? Rongzhen was doted on in the past. Even if her pearl of essence shattered and she became a useless person, she was still the honorable fourth princess. When did other people have the right to decide her life and death? There hasn't been any news from country Yao Chen, so it's obvious that Emperor Jiawen doesn't know about this. That was his daughter that he doted on the most. If he knew about this, I really don't know how sad he would be, said Situ Xingqian slowly with a tinge of pity on her face. However, her eyes flashed with a cold and vicious light that disappeared in an instant. You're saying, Elder Lian Ning, it's been hard on you during this period. Leave the rest to me. Situ Xingqian took out a pen and paper. I'll tell this to the people who should know about it. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.